Just like the sun in the sky, warm, steady, and never changing, the sun in the natal chart represents your visible, unchanging core self, your fundamental essence, your creative energy, your goals and desires. Today we're going to focus on understanding your sun sign. My name is Anastasia. I'm a traditional Western astrologer specializing in natal, relationship, and predictive astrology. I work with tropical zodiac and offer content as well as create products. If you like my work, please take a second to show your support by leaving a like or a comment, subscribing, and pressing that notification bell. Seems small, but it really helps my channel grow, encourages the YouTube algorithm to push my content in front of more people. Thank you for that. You can also show your appreciation by buying me a coffee or a tea or a croissant, my favorite food. I highly appreciate that as well. Before we dive in, if you feel lost in life, if you want to understand your chart better, if you have questions about your relationship, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. There's a couple of duration options, a few reading options. You can do a predictive reading where we look at your year ahead, a natal chart reading helping you understand your soul's purpose, your relationship energy, etc. Or, like I mentioned, a relationship reading is another option too. On my website, you can also find the variety of products I create. Since we are talking about the sun, highly recommend checking out my Sunlight in a Jar candle. It's decorated with gold foil and it smells like citrus. It is all about confidence, recognition, visibility, and success. Especially good for those born with their natal sun in the 6th, 8th, or 12th houses, the sun in Libra or Aquarius, the sun conjunct opposite square Saturn or Pluto or Neptune, even Uranus, because then that energy might be harder to express. So definitely check it out. I love this candle. I always light it up when I want to speak and be bright and make content for you guys, and it always works really, really nice. So in this video, we're focusing on sun signs. The sun is the center of our solar system. It is a huge star that every other planet rotates around, and sun's astrological meaning is very much connected to its astronomical meaning, right? As you know, the sun is at the center of the solar system. Every planet rotates around it. It is steady. It is unchanging. It is huge, right? Especially if you look at the moon, for example, that is constantly changing in the size, in the brightness. Sometimes it disappears, it reappears, it shows up at different times of day. So the sun has that kind of powerful, that's why in the beginning of this video I said it's like the core self, because it's unchanging. And I believe that we tend to show our moon sign a lot earlier in life. As a kid, you probably express your moon sign a lot stronger. And then as you grow older, you become more of your sun sign. But more about the sun, right? Steady, unchanging, visible. Every planet revolves around it. It's like the star, the lead actor in the movie. So in the natal chart, the sun is the lead actor, right? Like the sun in astronomy, in the sky, projects its light. In real life, you project your sun sign. It's very conscious. It's very kind of, a lot of people feel connected to it. You may feel a little less connected to your sun sign if it is placed in one of those dark houses, the 2nd, 6th, 8th, or 12th, or if you're born during the night and your moon is maybe placed a lot more prominently than the sun. But in general, the sun is very easy to notice. And just like the sun illuminates the world, the sun in a natal chart represents your kind of desire to be visible, right? Wherever it's placed, the sign it's placed in, that would describe what you want to be known for. What do you want to be seen for? Where you want to be seen. If it's in the 10th house, you want to be seen in a professional context. If it's in the 12th house, or like my sun, right? I shine light on the 12th house topics, like astrology, things that are a little bit harder to see. So in the chart, the sun corresponds to your identity, to your individuality, to your goals, to your ego. It also represents your vitality. So a lot of times a strongly placed sun will give you more energy versus the sun placed in the 12th house, or the 6th or the 8th will make you potentially a bit more introverted and private, and you will need more alone time to recharge. It also is connected very much to your creative energy, right? Virgo will express creative energy very analytically versus Leo will express it boldly and proudly. And your vision on many levels, right? Like, what are you aspiring towards? Some of the archetypes connected to the sun, just to help you understand it better, are the king, grand, central, royal, powerful, hero, consciously taking action, overcoming destiny, becoming, taking spotlight, right? Divine child, someone who is kind of true to self, just is without trying to be someone they're not. And performers. Performers are very solar because they're literally drawing attention. Also leaders of any kind. You can think a little bit of like military general, but I feel like military soldier is Mars. Military general is like a mix of Mars and the sun. So hopefully this helps you understand the nature of the sun a little bit more. And let me know what your sun sign is. We're going to start talking about sun signs in a second. But before we do, as always, if you have questions, you want to ask me more about your chart, understand your future, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. There's always a good time. Now is a great time. So let's talk about the signs. Let's talk about your sun sign and take it through all the 12 zodiac signs, beginning with Aries sun. So if you're born with your sun in Aries, you are in luck because that is an exalted placement of the sun, meaning the sun is empowered in Aries. There is that quality to Aries of freshness, of newness. It's the first sign of the zodiac. It's the sign of spring. It's the sign of light coming back into nature and taking over the darkness. So you have that sort of spring-like, powerful, innovative energy. I like understanding sun signs or any kind of signs by looking at what the sign is made of. So knowing that Aries is a fire sign and it's a cardinal fire sign is very helpful because fire is the element of the spirit. It's the element of courage, right? It's the element of like visibility on many levels. It's hungry, it's strong. Try to defeat the fire. If you're fighting with it, it's probably going to be pretty hard unless you have some water, unless you ask them to talk about feelings, and then maybe they'll run away. So that could be tricky. But if you think of it that way, if you think that Aries is fire and it's cardinal fire, and cardinal signs are the ones that begin things. Literally, Aries begins the spring. Aries begins the astrological year. So it's the beginning of the fire. Aries is the spark of fire. And so if you think of it that way, it becomes a lot easier to understand Aries, right? If it's the spark of fire, it's all about starting new things. Aries feels very happy in an environment where they get to get things started. You know, just do it is very much Aries' motto. They're lovely at starting projects, not always really good at finishing them. That's where Taurus comes in, or Leo comes in, or Scorpio, like a fixed sign. You need some fixed energy. If you are an Aries with fixed placements, you're probably quite good at finishing things. But it's all about that like new beginning. Aries is the explorer, it's the pioneer, it's the first to go on an adventure, it's the first to get things going. I just literally just recently spoke at an event, and one of the hosts was a Leo sun with an Aries moon. I know we're talking about sun signs, but she is an Aries moon and her moon is at the top of the chart. It was her chart ruler as a Cancer rising, and she specializes at starting businesses, right? So being that person with the knowledge, with the idea, being able to initiate things is very much Aries energy. There is a little bit of that, you know, burning about something really fast emotionally or spiritually, ideologically, and then sort of burning out. So sometimes the idea doesn't always develop fully because once again, you need to execute it. or Aries person is on to the next thing, or they just get burned out, right? Like that's something where like it's a very energetic, it's a very brave sign. It's very much the explorer, the pioneer, but they do go through these phases of like spark and then down, spark and then down. So some of the goals Aries has, I think, is asserting themselves and overcoming difficulty. Why the sun is exalted in Aries is very much because Aries doesn't just show up and expect attention like a Leo might. Aries shows up by proving themselves. Aries constantly, you know, it's a very competitive sign. It's a very sort of active sign, cardinal sign. They take action. They don't stand in one spot. They go after things. They express themselves. They act independently. They explore the ego. They express their ego very strongly. So it's a really kind of powerful leader, initiator type of a sign. Let me know how this resonates, and if you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. I have my North Node in Aries and my Jupiter in Aries, so I always feel quite connected to Aries energy, and I honestly love it in my own chart a ton. Next, we have the sun in Taurus. So for those of you born with the sun in Taurus, to understand Taurus, we need to look at the planet ruling Taurus, and that is Venus. And it's not just any Venus, but it's a feminine, earthy, fixed Venus, right? So when you think of like the goddess of love and beauty being very feminine, I think it becomes like really easy to understand. It's just sort of like the goddess of beauty that doesn't go out there and make things happen like in Libra. Instead, she just chills and waits for things to come her way. So every Taurus has that sensual, earthy, slow and steady energy. They're very materially driven. They like to create things that are tangible, that they can touch. So like their child or their house or their garden. So very like vitality, creative energy is connected to like that physical, earthy, grounded ability to create and maintain. It's a fixed sign. So going from Aries, of the spark of fire and new beginnings, with Taurus, we actually have the staying power. We have that ability to persevere, Taurus is not the fastest sign, but you don't need to be fast. Slow is fast, fast is smooth, or what is that saying, right? I think there is a saying. My boyfriend says that a lot, but like slow and steady a lot of times is necessary to get to the finish line, not the fast start. So Taurus has that ability to persevere, ability to kind of go after things in its own way. Very sensual sign, very sort of loves pleasure, sometimes to a point of too much, right? Like overeating, overindulging, sleeping a little too long, having a little bit too much sex, kind of just like being a kid in the candy store and just having all the pleasures. But it's also a sign that's recognized for being reliable, loyal, stable, able to produce, able to maintain, able to provide. It's very much a provider sign. Earthy signs, they all kind of feel happy by controlling the environment and being grounded and being responsible. Of course, the shadow side could suggest a reluctance to change, stubbornness. They're very stubborn, right? And that is both their weakness and their strength, because they're stubborn, and I think a lot of times the stubbornness comes out of like the fear to be wrong. So they will be like stubbornly defending their point of view, but they will also stubbornly protect people they love and provide for people they love. But you got to watch out for that stubbornness becoming control and manipulation and trying to hold on to the people you love like they were material objects. If you want to understand your chart better, you want to understand yourself better, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and we will break your chart down, look at your future, and I will answer any of your questions happily. Next, if you were born with your sun in Gemini, here we're moving into the domain of Mercury, and it's an air sign, and it's also a masculine Mercury. So if you think about the planet of communication, transportation, Mercury changes. Mercury rises before the sun, it rises after the sun sets. It's very fast. It's connected to like the exchange of information. Becomes easy to understand Gemini, right? You have the feminine Mercury in Virgo. It's all about narrowing things down. In Gemini, Mercury is masculine, so it's all about spreading this like metaphorical seed of knowledge, right? So in Gemini, the creative energy is directed towards talking to as many people, learning as many things, acquiring facts. Are they connected? Sometimes no. It's more about like, I heard this, I read this. Constant asking questions, constant gathering facts, expressing facts, sharing knowledge, like very kind of all about ideas, right? I think of Gemini and I think of a busy news station or a busy airport when the planes are constantly landing and leaving and landing and leaving, and there's foreigners and it's just like busy, busy, busy. Very verbal sign, very curious sign. If we think about Gemini being connected to, it's a mutable sign, so it's very adaptable, and it's also represented by the twins. So with Gemini, you always get the duality, right? Every mutable sign, Gemini is our first mutable sign as we're traveling through the zodiac. Every mutable sign is adaptable. Every mutable sign is capable of seeing different perspectives. The fact that it's a mutable sign also means that it's at the end of the season. Gemini wraps up the spring. And so as it's on this cusp of spring and summer, it has that duality, right? Because it's represented by Mercury, it also has that duality. So people sometimes blame Geminis or say they're like shapeshifters and they're unpredictable or they're shady or you can't know who they are. But in reality, that's the nature of the sign. It's the sign that is very curious and very understanding. I don't think they change their mind to mess with you, but they change their mind because yesterday they saw this idea, they agreed with it. Today they see a different idea and they agree with that. And of course that will change if you have some Taurus in your chart or you have some Leo in your chart, whatever it might be. Any fixed sign placement will modify. So we are just looking at sun signs. So in order to understand yourself better, you can always book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Ask me questions about the rest of your chart. Understand what else is there besides your sun sign. Sun signs are a good sort of beginning, but there is so much more to each sign. Next, if you are born with your sun in Cancer, Cancer is the only sign ruled by the moon, and the moon has that feminine, watery, cardinal energy. In Cancer, it's cardinal. And so when you think of Cancer being ruled by the moon, just thinking once again about the nature of the moon, the changeable, the moon controls water, the moon changes signs, like sizes, and it moves through signs and it moves fast, and the fact that the Cancer is the sign of water, the emotions become the ruling factor when it comes to Cancer. It's a very sensitive, it's a very nurturing sign. The moon is connected to the archetype of the mother. The moon absorbs the light of the sun and reflects it. So it's almost like absorbs the warmth of the sun and gives it back to us. It lights up the shadow part of the night. So Cancer is driven by that desire to help, to nurture, but very kind of also very reserved and protective. So Cancer will not necessarily try to nurture everyone, but it will nurture loved ones and maybe sick and poor and family members and children. So there's plenty of Cancers that do not want to be parents and do not feel necessarily those nurturing energies, but any Cancer will nurture something. They will devote a lot of attention to their job. They will devote a lot of love to their garden, to their career, to their friends, right? There's just always this kind of instinctive urge to protect the people they love as well as protect themselves. And also very much that creativity is dependent on the moods, vitality is dependent on the moods, desires are affected by the moods. So it's very kind of flowy zodiac sign. But I think, I think the main goal of Cancer is definitely find what is worth pursuing and dedicate and put like a lot of effort towards maintaining it. People sometimes forget that Cancer is the cardinal sign, and cardinal signs are all about taking action. So for Cancer, it will be more about taking action in the realm of emotions, in the realm of family, in the realm of job, if they feel like that is what's important to them. Highly recommend my Moon in Cancer 2 candle for any Cancer, because this one has the Moon in Cancer. It smells amazing. It highlights the powerful Moon in the sign of rulership, helping you find more stability, more peace, more ease in your life, helping you relax. Additionally, if you'd like to know more about your chart, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Moving on to Leo. Leo is the quintessential solar sign. Leo is ruled by the sun. And if you're born with your sun in Leo, you are in luck, because you're just naturally born with the sun in rulership. And whichever house Leo is in your chart, that's where you may receive a lot of blessings. So Leo is ruled by the sun. Naturally, Leos possess that royal, kingly, charming, warm energy, a very generous sign, very kind of bright and happy to give to other people. It's a fire sign, and it's a fixed fire. So Leo is like a campfire that everybody gathers around, and they're happy to entertain you. They're happy to tell stories. They're happy to be in the spotlight, right? Sometimes people look at Leos and they're like, oh, Leo just wants attention. They want to be in the spotlight. But Leo is the energy that actually knows that we all want attention. They're just not afraid to express it. So because it's the sun sign, the sun ruled by the sign ruled by the sun, it, like I said, it has that ability to radiate confidence, to radiate generosity, to radiate charm. Barack Obama always comes to mind when I think about a Leo sun. He also has Mercury in Leo, and he's just the most charming American president, in my humble opinion. You may disagree, but I think he just was like, the way he spoke, the way he presented himself, you just want to sit there and be like, yeah, sure, tell me anything. You don't even need to listen. It's entertaining without even knowing the language, let's say, if you don't speak English fluently. But yeah, very kind of bright, very solar, very generous, a little bit prideful, right? Maybe a little bit too sometimes, because I think there is that strong sensibility and always desire to be like generous and kind and the best version of yourself. So if other people don't appreciate it, or if they treat you a certain way without recognizing your noble nature, you may get your feelings hurt, very much so. Very creative sign, because Leo has that performance kind of quality. So many actors have Leo placements, like so many, you have no idea. Performers, like Beyonce has Mars and Leo. And speaking of putting on a show, so many. If you look at Leo placements out there in the Hollywood, you'd be amazed. So yeah, very, very kind of bright, childlike, a little bit dramatic at times, a little bit, strong ego, strong pride, but give Leo an ability to be the best version of themselves, to help other people, to shine their warmth on others, and they will be quite happy. If you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and we will break it down. We will look at your chart, talk about the future, or describe your relationship dynamics if that is what you want to know. Moving on to the sun in Virgo. This is me, yay! With Virgo, we are in the domain of Mercury again, but it's Mercury that is feminine. And feminine signs tend to be a bit more receptive. So with Gemini, we had Mercury in a masculine young sign, and Gemini is like, let's go out there, let's talk to everyone, let's gather data, let's collect facts. Virgo being the yin Mercury, it's all about accepting information without necessarily going out there and actively seeking it out. It is very analytical, it's very process oriented, very critical thinking sign. They make really good researchers. They're really like scientists where you have to, Gemini brought you a bunch of data and now it's your turn to edit, analyze, go like sift through the facts. It's an earth sign and it's a mutable sign. So Virgo, because it's the final sign of summer, Virgo has that ability to organize things, to once again like sort of sift through data, to give good advice, to provide help in a tangible way, to learn from past experiences. Virgos give really good advice, if I say so myself. It's a very intelligent sign, very kind of earthy, rooted in routines, rooted in healthcare, taking care of their body, helping other people, once again like helping through very like tangible steps and tangible values. Very humble. Mercurial nature, I think, always creates the duality within Virgo, where on one side they could be like very pure and on the other side don't look in their secret closet, like Monica's secret closet, right? Very sort of like perfectionist, but sometimes the shadow side is being like too self-critical or too critical of people in their lives. So Virgo has to figure out that balance of how to get to a place of, you know, perfection and purity. Virgo will always want to purify. And so the purity is not always about the purity of a Virgo, but it's more about that ability to purify the dirty water, purify the bunch of facts that were gathered and narrow it down, get to the bottom of things, create that like virginal olive oil out of less beautiful olive oil. So yeah, definitely if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and we will take a look at your entire chart because this is mostly dedicated to sun signs. Now, if you were born with your sun in Libra, we're looking at the sun sign. You know, you might have many other placements that affect it, but with Libra sun, Libra is the sign ruled by Venus, and it's a young, masculine, airy Venus. So like any air sign, Libra is the sign that is very much in their head, very intellectual, very analytical. It is very much perfectionist. I think people don't talk about it as much as they do with Virgo, but Libra has that, you know, sort of kind of, it's represented by the scales, so it's always weighing the pros and the cons, and it's trying to figure out if we look at like Venus ruled sign, it's focused on creating harmony in the world, creating balance. So it intellectually really always like tries to find the best solution, tries to understand things. Because it's a cardinal Venus in Taurus, we have Venus that is just gonna look pretty and like sit pretty and sort of make an indentation in earth and have good things slide towards them. With Libra, it's Venus that is active. It's a masculine kind of Venus. She's going to go out there. She's going to flirt with you, with them. And she will create she will create happy relationships and connections. The sun in Libra is in its fall. And so sometimes it's in its fall because it's opposite Aries, and Aries is all about self-assertion and independence. It's that sign that is literally saying I am. In Libra, because Libra is so focused on us and balance and harmony, it becomes really hard to assert one's own ego. So they may struggle with expressing their individuality because of that really strong concentration on others and pleasing others. Highly, highly recommend for all of my Libra suns, Sunlight in a Jar 2 candle, because this one was created with the sun in Leo. Fire of Aries is another really good one because it has the Aries sun, exalted sun. So this could be beneficial for any of you struggling to express your individuality. It could be helpful to find recognition for your work, to find happiness, to find more visibility, to also kind of have that kind of bright energy and not be afraid to express yourself. But they very much succeed in any kind of role that requires creativity. It's a very creative sign, very strong sense of aesthetics because it's a Venusian sign, so always dressed beautifully, look beautifully, really good at making peace. But I think once again, like, because sometimes that identity, that like strong sense of self is harder to express, the shadow side of Libra could manifest in not only people pleasing, but like indecision and maybe a little bit of like love for drama, even though you would never, I feel like not a lot of Libras would admit it, that they love drama, but because, you know, they need to express that creativity somehow, sometimes they might be the person that like gathers a lot of gossip or expresses a lot of gossip. So best to use the creative energy to, I think, create balance and peace, and watch out for that shallow kind of shadow side where you judge people based on their looks or gossip or create drama without wanting it. Once again, really check this candle out. Sunlight in a Jar 2 or Fire of Aries is perfect for inspiration, recognition, and confidence. And if you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. We can do your natal chart reading or a more predictive year ahead reading or a relationship reading. Why not? If you are born with your sun in Scorpio, Scorpio is a Mars-ruled sign, and it's a feminine Mars. So I like to think of Scorpio as a ninja. It's Mars, but it's not Mars that will be in your face, like with Aries, right? With Scorpio, we have that undercover secret agent, ninja, who moves quietly, has that like stealth ability. So it's a water sign. It's a fixed sign. So it's a sign of like really deep, fixed emotions, water, very strong intuition, craving for powerful emotional experiences, sometimes deep emotions and transformations of emotions and intense experiences, intense connections are more important for this sign than happiness. What is happiness, right? Scorpio is the sign that, you know, it's the sign of the fall, it's the sign of death in nature. And so it's being that opposition to Taurus, which is all about the birth of nature, the green color. Taurus is very fertile. Scorpio is all about like release and endings and transformation and dark colors, right? They often have really deep eyes, especially if they are Scorpio rising maybe, or have some kind of, you know, like powerful Mars placement. So very intensity oriented, very deep feeling. On the negative, the deep feelings can result in obsession, can result in emotional fixation, fears of trust, fears of opening up. I feel like, you know, any Scorpio you meet, once you get to see their like deep, true nature, you understand just how vulnerable and soft and squishy they are. But because of that past maybe hurt and past wounds, they often create kind of a hardened scorpion shell around themselves where they are more protective. And actually, a lot of times this also contributes to their mystique and their enigma, right? Because people sort of get attracted to them. Often a very sexual sign. A lot will depend on your Mars placement. If you're a Scorpio with Mars in Libra, you may be a little bit less sexual because your Mars is in the sign of its detriment. Check out my Mars Kazemi candle, could be really good for you. But yeah, very intuitive, very passionate, very deep, very vulnerable, but not always showing that side of themselves. If you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and we will dive into your chart and describe what it says, talk about your future, talk about your relationship. It's up to you what we will talk about. Moving on to the sun in Sagittarius. If you were born with your sun in Sagittarius, your sun is Jupiter ruled. It's a young Jupiter. So just from those two things alone, right? Like Jupiter is all about uniting things. It's about big picture. So Sagittarius is a big picture sign. If you look at Gemini, which is all about like small little facts, Sag is about big grand ideas and concepts. And the fact that it's a young masculine Jupiter, you get that image even in the symbol of Sagittarius, half man, half horse, right? Even in that, or that arrow symbol, you have that kind of desire to conquer, the conquistador energy, like centaur that goes somewhere and uses the power of speech, because there's a half man there, to teach other people, to guide other people, to switch them to the cause and get them inspired. So it's also a fire sign, and it's a mutable fire. So with Aries, we had the spark of fire. With Leo, we had the campfire. And with Sagittarius, we just have like a wildfire. Like, I feel like there's a name for this. It's like, it's basically when the fire just like spreads out. Let's call it, yeah, I'm going to call it wildfire. I think that's what it is. So Sagittarius has that desire to not only share wisdom, like not only just like gain the knowledge or start things or be bright, but like with Sagittarius, it's about who can we teach, who can we tell. Learning is always connected with teaching. Sagittarius is archetypally very much a teacher. Jupiter gives it very optimistic attitude, very sort of like preacher type energy. It's because it's a fire sign, it tends to be very blunt, very independent, very kind of empowering of other people, values honesty, expresses themselves with honesty, loves to travel, loves to explore more, very broad-minded, very open-minded. But sometimes also, you know, like because they have these like high standards, they can end up being intolerant of other people or be like insensitive to the opinions of others. What's interesting is Sagittarius being a mutable sign, they go through the change of perspective quite often, but in the moment when they are like so fired up about something, they might not realize it, and then like a few days later they will be fired up about something else, and that's where that mutability comes through. But generally, I think Jupiter gives them like strong morals and values and desire to be like helpful and supportive. They just may do it in a little bit of like a forceful way. So gotta be mindful of that. If you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and we will talk about your sun sign, your chart, your future, your relationship, whatever you prefer to talk about. If you were born with your sun in Capricorn, here we are traveling into the land of Saturn. So with Capricorn, it's a Saturn, cardinal, feminine, earth. And just by looking at those significations, you can get a lot, right? Saturn is the planet of restrictions. It's the planet of limitations. And Capricorn often has this very mature energy around them, right? Like they can be someone who grew up really early, who maybe had to learn how to help with their siblings. They maybe were an older sibling or a manager at work. Like they have this, some kind of, you know, like serious, mature, adult energy to them. And because it's a Saturn-ruled sign, they may have this kind of like dark sense of humor or because once again, it's like a feminine sign. So it's not a masculine sign that will go out there like Aquarius and change the laws. With Capricorn, a lot of times you get more of like, how can we work with the existing rules? How can we figure out what the structures are and use them to our advantage? Capricorn gets a lot of times put in this box of like, you know, they just care about professional success, but you get a whole bunch of Capricorns. There's a hipster Capricorn, there's an ambitious Capricorn, there is like a different Capricorn, but what is true about them is that they will most likely try to uphold some kind of standard and be very maybe traditional and be very good at following the rules until they're not. Every Capricorn has the side to them that is, I know the rules, I know the best way to do things within the existing structure, and they also know how to break away from that and have a good time and party. But because it's an earth sign, we get another earth sign, and cardinal earth sign, so it's all about initiating things that will create stability and structure in their life. So a lot of times they direct that energy towards their career, but once again, if they're a hipster Capricorn, they might direct it towards travel or connecting with people or creativity, whatever it might be, but there will be that like hard work, dedication, stamina. On the negative, they can be a little bit too pessimistic and skeptical and cynical and maybe sort of burned by life, have that Saturnian melancholic attitude to them. But on the positive, like I said, very practical, patient, really good managers, tend to be really good at like setting healthy boundaries. Of course, everything will depend on other things. If you're a Capricorn Sun conjunct Neptune, maybe you're less good at setting boundaries because of that Neptunian nature. Check out my Sunlight in a Jar candle, because this one has the powerful Sun in Leo, and it could be quite helpful for those trying to get in touch with their solar energy. If you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com, and let me know how this resonates. Do you feel like I have done your sun sign justice? If you have more to add, please do so in the comments below. Now, if you are an Aquarius sun, Aquarius is traditionally ruled by Saturn. I'm a traditional astrologer, so I look at Saturn as the ruler of Aquarius versus Uranus. And I think there's strong reasons for that, right? Like when people say that Aquarius is ruled by Uranus, Uranus is just rebellious and unpredictable, while Aquarius is not that like rebellious for the sake of rebellion. Aquarius has that Saturnian nature to them a lot of times because it's a young Saturn versus yin Saturn in Capricorn. Capricorn is all about maintaining the laws, maintaining the structures, working within the box. Aquarius, being the young Saturn, is about creating new laws, creating new structures, destroying the box and building a new box. It's amazing, right, how much people sometimes underappreciate the fixed nature of Aquarius. Like, yes, like Aquarius really cares about society. It's an air sign, about well-being of other people. It's very idealistic, it's very rational, but it's fixed. And so almost every Aquarius you meet will have a very clear idea of what the world needs. And it will be different, Aquarius to Aquarius. There will be Aquariuses out there that will say, we need to bring back the past. And there will be Aquariuses out there that will say, no, we need a brand new future. We need to figure out a new way of doing things, right? But a lot of times they have this very clear understanding of community. They care about social welfare. Every Aquarius oftentimes resonates with this energy of like loving humanity, hating the people, or like individuals are they're imperfect. So Aquarius often sees them as imperfect. It's a very friendly sign. It's a very people-oriented sign, very much in their head because it's an air sign. So communication is important to them in relationships, being valued for their intellect, being sort of recognized for their ideas. A lot of times, if you're born with the sun in Aquarius, the sun is in its detriment in Aquarius, and you may feel more misunderstood, more like an outsider. It may be harder for you to do what Leo does so naturally, to just sort of jump in the spotlight and get your attention. Highly recommend my Sunlight in a Jar 2 candle for you guys and for Libras, because the sun is weaker in Libra and Aquarius, and you can really benefit from the strong sun. This candle captured the sun in Leo, and it has that quality of brightness, confidence, attention-driven visibility and recognition. And even if you are a classical Aquarius who doesn't maybe care about those things, it doesn't hurt sometimes to be able to present your ideas and get them supported and recognized. So definitely check that out. And if you're curious to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. Now, if you are the sun in Pisces. So with Pisces, we are in a Jupiter-ruled sign. I'm a traditional astrologer. I don't see Pisces as Neptune-ruled. Sometimes I might give Neptune as like a co-ruler status, because Neptune does have that creative, imaginative, dreamy quality, but Neptune is also not ambitious. And there are so many Pisces out there that are very ambitious, very kind of go-getters, very kind of, leader type people. So I think you see that a lot more with Jupiter versus Neptune. That's why I follow Jupiter as the ruler of Pisces. But if in Sagittarius we had young Jupiter, a conquistador who goes out there, preaches to people, turns them to their side. With Pisces, it's a yin, feminine Jupiter. So here we're a lot more about absorbing the information. Pisces has that like very wise Jupiter, wisdom, optimism. Not always optimistic, I think, because maybe of that watery, sensitive nature. But it's a wise sign. It still has that Jupiterian kind of like preacher energy, but not the active preacher that goes out there, but rather a preacher that will listen to you, that will tap you on the shoulder, that will accept you, understand you. Pisces, being the water sign, is like the soup of emotions that you can drop your feelings into and they will warm up and get sort of attention and compassion. So Pisces is very compassionate, very giving, very a great like natural healer oftentimes. But of course, because Pisces has flaws as well, or challenges. Sometimes people born with the sun in Pisces may struggle with self-understanding because they're so compassionate and so good at taking on the feelings of others, and just water sign being so intuitive, they may struggle to detangle their sense of self from other people. So highly recommend for any Pisces to spend more time alone, to meditate, to just kind of take time to reconnect with yourself. It's a sign highly driven by the dreams. Sometimes they may struggle to bring their dreams into reality. But once again, I think it's underappreciated, or like a lot of people don't necessarily recognize how ambitious can Pisces be, especially if they have some like Earth or some cardinal signs in their chart as well. So the dreams can definitely be brought to reality, but at times they may struggle with, like, once again, I think a lot of it comes from that ability to empathize with other people. So sometimes the nature of life can feel too heavy for them. So they may choose to escape, to overindulge, to sort of lean heavily into these like unhealthy behaviors, or even play a victim because it's just easier that way sometimes. So, but at the same time, very kind of powerful, empathetic, healing, beautiful sign that we all need in our life, just to remind us that it's okay, that things will be okay, that it's okay to relax, it's okay to dream, it's okay to feel things. I have a Pisces friend, and she always, if I tell her about feeling negative feelings, and she asks me, she's like, and do you feel unhappy about it? Do you want to escape those feelings? And I'm always like, yes. And she's like, well, maybe don't, because they're here for a reason. I'm very clearly a Gemini moon. I'm like, feelings? What feelings? I'm okay. Everything is fine. So if you resonate with this, let me know. And if you want to know more, book a reading on my website, anastasiadoesastrology.com. As you can tell, I am starting to push myself and create more content that is evergreen, that you can watch at any point, and it's not connected to a specific transit, which I do a lot of those videos too, and I'm not going to stop, but I think it's worth it for me to share with you kind of more general astrological information. If you have any suggestions about future videos, about something you want to know about, somebody recently commented that they'd be curious to know more about aspects, definitely drop a comment down below, leave a like, subscribe if you haven't yet, and I'm looking forward to sharing more videos with you soon. Bye.